All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're not going to talk about the Steelers quarterback situation. So, Art Rooney II had some comments regarding the quarterback position. Um, so he basically said they need improvement out of that position, and they also didn't rule out the possibility of trading for a quarterback. Um, so I mean, there's some quarterbacks out there that they can maybe get. I mean, you talk about, I talked about the other day, earlier in the week, how the Bears, they might not necessarily, move out of the number one spot. They might, stay there, which means, what does that mean for Justin Fields? That means the Bears could probably move off of Fields, and maybe the Steelers say, hey, maybe we would take Fields. That's a possibility. You also look at some of the veteran quarterbacks that could be available in free agency. Kirk Cousins. I know his name has been floated around with the Steelers. There's Ryan Tannehill as well. I mean, again, a lot of these options aren't, they're not, spectacular options. I mean, Kirk Cousins, I think, out of the three that I just said, but then again, he is coming off of the Achilles injury. But if you're getting Kirk Cousins, back from the Achilles and he rebounds, I mean, he's probably the best option. Because with Justin Fields, I mean, he's an elite playmaker with his feet, but still has, some things to work on when it comes to throwing the football. But when he did come back from injury, the Bears did look like a better team. So, I mean, you could go that route with Fields. Tannehill's probably number three because he's kind of been trending down the last couple of years. And obviously, Will Levis ended up taking over as the starter in Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, then you look at what the Steelers have currently. I mean, you have Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. I think Mason Rudolph actually is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, what Rooney was saying is that he emphasized the importance of quality play at quarterback. Talking about Mason Rudolph and his performance, down the stretch. Because listen, the Steelers made the right call, changing from Trubisky to Mason Rudolph. I mean, Steeler fans were chanting for Rudolph. I mean, I didn't think it was really going to make much of a difference, but it ended up making a difference because the Steelers ended up making the playoffs somehow. And you know what? Look, they were down by 3 scores against the Bills, but they did make it a close game at one point. So I do like the fact that they didn't just get absolutely destroyed. They made it a game. It also talked about in the article that I was looking at with Rooney's comments. Pickett struggles, talking about Kenny Pickett now. Pickett struggles with accuracy, pocket presence, and injuries during his second season. Were acknowledged along with the impact of inconsistent coaching. I mean, yeah, they changed coordinators, and listen, I don't look. I want to see Kenny Pickett succeed, also just because he has the same name as me, first name. I'll be honest. And listen, I have made some bad investments in the past when it comes to getting football jerseys. I got a Mike Evans jersey for Christmas. He might not even be on the Bucs next year. So, but I wanted a Mike Evans jersey. So, now might have to get rid of put tape over the Bucs logo and put whatever team he ends up going to. I mean, maybe he goes to the Giants. But yeah, I mean, a Kenny Pickett jersey was something that I did get last year. And that might not have been a good investment. But however, Rooney did express confidence in Pickett's potential for development despite his challenges. But yeah. So Mason Rudolph is a pending free agent. I do have that here. Rooney did hint at the possibility of drafting a quarterback or exploring free agent options to add competition to the roster. The importance of hiring the right offensive coordinator to aid in the development of Pickett and other young players was also talked about. Rooney stressed the need for consistency in offensive performance while acknowledging Rudolph's contributions and the benefits of competition at the cornerback position. And yeah, I mean, it's tough right now because the Steelers have a good roster. It's just they're missing the most important thing, a quarterback. Now, can Kenny Pickett still be that guy? We'll see. Because, listen, the Steelers, the year before, looked like they had no shot of doing anything. And then all of a sudden, Pickett started getting hot at the end of the season. and they just missed the playoffs. They went 9-8. So I mean, I don't think Kenny Pickett's bad, but I do think one of the biggest problems was coaching. I mean, Steeler fans. I mean, how many Matt Canada? I mean, they were fire Matt Canada chants everywhere. Not even at football games. They were at hockey games. I mean, it just people wanted him gone. I mean, now they bring in Arthur Smith. Not a lot of people like the hire. But then there's also the argument of, well, look what he did as the coordinator with the Titans. I mean, look at what he was able to do with Ryan Tannehill. That in the 2019 season when he took over as the quarterback, that team went all the way to the AFC Championship game. So there's that argument. So, but then you also got what just happened with the Falcons, where it's like, why are you not getting the ball to your playmakers? I mean, you had Raheem Morris making a joke about, the guys on their roster, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. You got to get the ball to your playmakers. And is that going to happen here with the Steelers? Like, George Pickens is your guy at wide receiver. Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth. You got Jalen Warren and Najee Harris coming out of the backfield. I mean, the Steelers have good weapons on this team. So it's not like, and you look at the defense led by T.J. Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. Again, the roster is good. It's just the players got to be used properly, especially on offense, because that's been the issue. But I mean, again, you look at the landscape of the AFC, and you look at the quarterbacks. I mean, of course, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. I mean, the Steelers have given Lamar Jackson problems, his whole career basically. For some reason, Lamar Jackson, even when the Steelers aren't, clicking on offense. I mean, I'm not going to count the last game of the regular season just because the Ravens sat their starters. But earlier in the season, I mean, the Steelers won. That had to do with, Lamar Jackson throwing interceptions and, receivers dropping passes. So, I mean, that was a team loss. But still, I mean, and go back to a couple years ago, in 2021, the Steelers made the playoffs. And, they won that game. That was like a 1-point game they ended up winning because the Ravens went for 2 and they didn't get it. 2020, the Steelers, I know, beat them in Baltimore. I forget what happened in. They did win because in Pittsburgh, if you remember, because that was the Wednesday game. Because that game was supposed to be on Thanksgiving, but then that got moved because of COVID, and Lamar Jackson didn't play in the game. A lot of starters didn't play in that game. RG3 started, and the Steelers won that game, but that wasn't with Lamar Jackson. But still, you get the idea. You got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's going to come back. It's just there's a lot of we'll see how Justin Herbert is with Jim Harbaugh now. There's a lot of because I still think Herbert's really good. Now we'll see with Jim Harbaugh taking over how that's all going to play out. But still, I mean, this is a loaded conference. I mean, you got the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and him coming back. We'll see how that goes. It's and then you got the Dolphins, who are a good team, but there's still some question marks with Tua, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's just there's and you see, I again didn't mention the teams in the AFC South. You got Anthony Richardson coming back, and he looked like he was going to have a good season, and then he got hurt. Look at what C.J. Stroud has done. I know the Jags kind of collapsed at the end, but still, I think Trevor Lawrence is still a good quarterback. It's a loaded conference. It is a loaded conference, and a lot of these quarterbacks, you would take them over what the Steelers got right now, and especially with what the Chiefs have been able to do, you need a quarterback that can, go toe-to-toe with the best. And Kenny Pickett does not look like that. He's the guy. But again, football's a team sport, so there's that. But you gotta have an elite quarterback. And right now the Steelers, they're kind of in that situation where it's like, well, there's question marks. Can Kenny Pickett answer the bell? And, you bring in competition. Because you know what? You bring in competition, that could definitely light a fire under him. And he could go out there and play really well. Or he could fold and he just shows you he's not the guy. I mean, I think once he got hurt, you put in Trubisky. I mean, that Trubisky just is not good. If they put in Rudolph from the beginning, then they maybe would have won one of the games that Trubisky lost. Because, I mean, once Rudolph came in, they didn't lose a game until they got to the playoffs. But that's just how it was going to go. I mean, the Steelers would make the playoffs. You know, when the Steelers made the playoffs, you're like, well, they're not going to win because they just, you know, they don't stack up well against these teams. And sure enough, yeah, I mean, you're playing in Buffalo and you end up losing. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's tough. You know, between them and, you know, the Giants, I mean, they haven't been able to. I mean, we'll see what the Giants end up doing. But you know, ever since their franchise quarterbacks have retired, you know, they've been struggling to find that replacement. You know, and obviously with Big Ben, I mean, the last couple of years, yeah, I mean, he was, you know, nearing the end. I mean, he's still. I mean, he wasn't like Peyton Manning 2015 bad, but like it was getting to that point. Um, but you know, I mean those those couple of years with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown were a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, it just got to that point where it was time, and you know, and Ben obviously he didn't want to. It seemed like he didn't want to go, but they kind of forced him out a little bit. But yeah, I mean now they're still kind of looking, and we'll see if Kenny Pickett, you know, can rebound and show that he's the guy. But right now, you know, it's the Steelers are looking to bring in some competition. It seems, you know, whether it is from free agency, trading, or you know, drafting. You know, there's going to be some competition next year. So, and yeah, I mean, again, the Steelers have a good roster. So, you know, they need a quarterback. That's what they need, and that's the biggest thing. The biggest piece. And again, you look at this division, and I also forgot to mention Deshaun Watson too, even though he hasn't really panned out for the Browns. So I mean, listen, you look at your own division. I mean, you take Burrow, you take Lamar. I mean, you probably take Deshaun Watson, even with how he's been playing since the Browns acquired him. You know, the Steelers, they got that's a position that they have to figure out. And, you know, maybe, you know, with Arthur Smith now as the offensive coordinator and Kenny Pickett's healthy next year and he's the starter next year, we'll see. But, you know, maybe that's not the case and they go in a different direction. Maybe if they bring in somebody that, you know, that quarterback ends up being the answer for the time being. But only time will tell. So, yeah, that's pretty much it with the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So make sure to tune in as we get closer and closer to Super Bowl Sunday. And yeah, again, thank you guys for tuning in. So with that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. Back again tomorrow, same time. And until then, I am Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.